So the future of every brand and service is about being able to provide things that their competitors don't have. And the only way they can do that is by really understanding the problems of the customer. It goes right back to the day that I worked in advertising, and I was given a brief by Casio, a company that made calculators at the time. And the brief was they were going to launch a new product which was going to be revolutionary and was going to change the world. It was a Casio watch. And my client was a gentleman by the name of Toshio Abe. He said, "We're going to digitize, we're going to democratize accuracy." And forgive me for being very cruel to my Japanese friends, but I didn't understand what he was saying to start with. When it became clear that he was going to democratize accuracy, I was fascinated. It was a really compelling story that meant that people who owned Rolexes and Omegas were going to be disrupted by a new piece of relatively ugly technology that was much more accurate. And I just fell in love with tech. I found technology was so intriguing, and I also learned that the price of a digital chip, or an integrated circuit as it was called then, by weight was more valuable than gold. So I thought, this is where I'm going to make my fortune, in the tech industry. And that's what happened. Throughout my career, I've spent time working with engineers and technologists who are not very gifted often in the art of communication. An engineer can, many times engineers sit alone in a laboratory or in a dev team. So they're dealing with mathematics, or they're dealing with materials. It's never something that comes to their attention that customers may need a detailed explanation of what someone is to do with the product that they've created, or why they should want to buy it. So I am the translator. I'm trying to find customer needs. I'm trying to find customers who have problems, and then match those things with the technologies that I'm aware of. And that role has not diminished in any way since I started out. In fact, it's more apparent every day as the technology becomes more complex and people have a much greater difficulty understanding it. Well, there are, I think, many things. If I focus a little bit on the digital marketing sector, if you're operating in the tourist industry, maybe you're a company that owns assets like a hotel which has rooms, or an airline that has seats in aircraft. You're recognizing that you're selling these things and it's a commodity sell. But realistically, your relationship that you have with your end user consumer has been hijacked by intermediaries like Expedia and Travelocity and Hotels Tonight. These people are pirates, and they are essentially out competing you in marketing. They're the people who understand search. I think Expedia is Google's biggest customer. But quite frequently, particularly in France, if I look for a specific hotel in Paris, I'm normally finding myself going to a landing page which is not owned by the hotel, but it's owned by Expedia. So if I then transact with Expedia to buy that room in that hotel, the relationship is now owned by Expedia. I become an Expedia customer, and the hotel doesn't know who the hell I am. So not only do they not know who I am, but the hotel operator is paying 20% for that booking, which is usually massively discounted. Anyway, the relationship is completely broken, and it can't endure, in my view, for much longer. But in order for it to be disrupted, the owners of these assets have got to understand that customers need to be looked after, they need to be cherished, they need to be understood so that products can be created that customers actually want. I find it incredibly frustrating that I fly quite a lot. I have frequent flyer miles with carriers that I use regularly, but I can never deploy them because when I want to deploy them there are no flights, or the things just add up. I've got thousands and thousands of points. There's $570 billion worth of loyalty points currently just sitting on balance sheets at companies all over the world. And this is appalling. It should be used to engage with customers and give them what they're really searching for. And the foolishness is that not only are they giving away margin, not only are they missing out on having a relationship with the customer so they could sell to them, but they're missing out having a relationship where the customer tells them much more about what they want in the future. So the future of every brand and service is about being able to provide things that their competitors don't have. And the only way they can do that is by really understanding the problems of the customer. The only way to compete with the big Silicon Valley behemoths is by collaboration. So find companies with whom you can collaborate that are not necessarily competing with you. And this is happening, but it's not something that I think everyone has fully grasped. If you're an airline, you see airlines, partnering with hotel chains more and more. But whilst they partner and whilst they add discounts, they don't really see the customer experience in the way that they should. And a simple example would be if you're an airline and you're doing a deal with a hotel. Sometimes I've tried this. Sometimes you have the hotel room and you have the flight, but you don't have the interconnect between the two. They don't think of the fact that you have to take ground transportation between one and the other. And this is not difficult to organize, but it just needs a bit of thought. If you imagine that your customer is going to become loyal to you, so much so that you can then, as an airline, resell other services, really resell them, and the trust that has been built up over time between your customer and your service delivery from the airline is then something you can extrapolate into more and more sales. Then you can amplify the relationship, you can amplify your income streams, and you can amplify the feedback that you get from your customers about how that experience has worked out. Without this type of full experiential relationship, I think you'll be diminished and you'll be outcompeted either by people who do search better, search marketing better, and performance marketing better, or people who do the experience better. And I think that almost everyone who's in this space has a clear understanding of customer experience. You don't have an airline without understanding customer experience, trust me. But in the same way that people used to say to the DIY markets, you're not really selling an electric drill, you're selling a hole. And the idea is to how to make the hole quickly and more effectively. So you have to apply the same logic to travel.